Here's a strange fact. Olympic athletes only feel motivated about 20% of the time. The rest? They show up anyway. That's the secret nobody tells you. Motivation is fleeting. Discipline is permanent. And once you understand the psychology behind it, you'll see why discipline will always beat motivation in the long run. Let's start with motivation. It feels amazing, right? That rush of energy when you hear a great speech, watch a motivational video, or imagine yourself crushing your goals. But here's the truth. Motivation is like caffeine. It gives you a quick boost, but it doesn't last. Studies show that most people abandon their New Year's resolutions within 32 days. Not because they didn't want change, not because they weren't motivated, but because when motivation fades, they had nothing left to keep them moving. Discipline, on the other hand, it's boring. It doesn't feel like a firework. It feels like brushing your teeth. But boring is powerful. Think about this. Warren Buffett has built his fortune not by chasing trends, but by showing relentless discipline, holding investments for decades, ignoring hype, and repeating the same boring process year after year. He once said, "We don't have to be smarter than the rest. We have to be more disciplined than the rest." That's not exciting, but it's unstoppable. Here's a strange nature fact. Did you know bamboo spends up to 5 years growing roots underground before you ever see a single sprout? For years, it looks like nothing's happening. But once it's ready, it can shoot up more than 3 feet in a single day. That's discipline in nature. Quiet, invisible, consistent growth, until one day the results explode into view. Motivation wants you to sprout instantly. Discipline makes sure you survive long enough to grow. Now, psychology gives us another clue. There's something called hedonic adaptation. It means we quickly get used to new rewards. That's why a new car, a raise, or even a fitness milestone feels amazing for a little while, then fades into normal. If you're relying on motivation, you're constantly chasing the next high, like a hamster on a wheel. But discipline sidesteps this trap. It says, "I don't care how I feel, I show up anyway." And ironically, that's what leads to long-term happiness. Because fulfillment doesn't come from bursts of motivation. It comes from living in alignment with your values day after day. Here's a cultural insight. The Japanese have a concept called Kaizen, continuous improvement. The focus isn't on giant motivational leaps, but tiny daily steps. 1% better each day. Compare that to Western culture, which glorifies the big motivational speech, the overnight success, the viral rise. But who wins over time? The disciplined 1% improvements. Japan has some of the highest rates of longevity in the world, not because of motivation, but because of consistency in habits like diet, community, and routine. Now let's bring it back to you. Think about your phone. Did you know the average person checks it 144 times a day? That's not motivation. That's discipline, just in the wrong direction. You've trained your brain to compulsively reach for it over and over without thinking. So here's the hack. If you can train discipline in bad habits, you can retrain it for good ones. It's not about hype. It's about repetition. Here's another powerful truth. The world itself runs on discipline. Airplanes don't fly because the pilot is motivated. They fly because physics demands consistent discipline in how engines, fuel, and aerodynamics work. The stock market doesn't reward people who are motivated for a month. It rewards those who stay disciplined through decades of ups and downs. Even your body doesn't care about motivation. Muscle is built by disciplined training and recovery, not by how pumped you felt on a Monday afternoon. But here's the twist. Discipline isn't just about grinding harder. It's about removing friction. Psychologists talk about environment design. If you want to be disciplined, don't rely on willpower. Design your surroundings so discipline is automatic. Want to read more? Put the book on your pillow. Want to eat healthier? Don't keep junk food in the house. Want to save money? Automate your transfers so you don't even think about it. Discipline isn't about being superhuman. It's about making the right choice, the easy choice. And here's a little known finance fact. If you invest $10 a day starting at age 20 with a modest 8% return, you'll have over $1 million by retirement. That's not motivation. That's disciplined, boring, automated consistency. Now compare that to someone who only invests when they feel motivated to save. That person might put in big chunks occasionally, but they'll almost always fall short. Motivation creates spikes. Discipline creates wealth. Let's go back to history for a second. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius ruled one of the most powerful empires in the world. Yet his personal journal, later published as Meditations, is full of reminders to stay disciplined. He constantly wrote to himself, "Stop drifting. Do the work." He knew that discipline, not passion, held the empire and his own sanity together. Even the Stoics knew, motivation is a guest. Discipline is the master of the house. So here's the surprising takeaway. Motivation is about feelings. Discipline is about identity. When you say, "I'm motivated to run," you're relying on emotion. When you say, "I am a runner," you're building identity. And identity is where discipline lives. Let me leave you with a question. If tomorrow your motivation disappeared completely, would your habits still carry you forward? Because that's the difference. Motivation gets you started. Discipline keeps you going when no one's watching. And in the end, that's what separates the people who dream from the people who actually build the life they want.